everybody. I have arrived. I tell you, what a day. Just longer than usual. Everything is always longer than usual for me. But I finally am in here. So, today's format title is Your Wellness Depends on Your Self-Love as Your True Value. Now, I know that's a mouthful. Just about everything I do is a mouthful. But it's I think we'll get much out of today's topic because a lot of us go through discovering or dealing with self-love. We all do. It's not something that's easy for any of us because what we find is that there's so much that's going on around us. And not often do we truly appreciate who we are in the world. Some people don't appreciate or have enough self-love within the immediate structure. Their family, friends, co-workers. And so we often find this to be somewhat difficult, right? Because we're not sure how we're supposed to be with other people. Sometimes we're just not sure. We're just not sure how we're supposed to carry ourselves around other people. You know, there are a lot of people in the world who are struggling with mental health. There's a lot of people just struggling with themselves, struggling with financial issues, debts. And they could be just debts spread out within the family itself. You know, there are a lot of people who are indebted financially to their families, relatives, cousins, parents, friends. So people are experiencing difficulty in learning how to love themselves enough. And we all go through it at some point in our lives. I don't believe that there's one person who doesn't go through or have this experience where they are finding out that it is difficult to love oneself. And so if it's difficult to love oneself, I mean, how does a person go about doing that? It's difficult. It's difficult for somebody to love themselves if they've never loved themselves before. And when we don't love ourselves, then we have this issue where we don't value ourselves enough. We don't value ourselves because we're thinking we're not worth it. We're not worth it being different from someone else. We're not worth it to be just ourselves. And so we have to take a good look at ourselves, see where we are on our path. Now you can do it through astrology, palmistry, numerology, psychometry, and so forth. You can do it through intensive moments of prayer. You can do it through meditation. You can seek out a spiritual counselor, a mentor, whoever, a clergy member. But in the end, it all boils down to who you feel that you are. So you might ask yourself a question sometimes. Who am I? What value or values do I have that I can identify with? Sometimes we can be very hard on ourselves, for sure. We could think that we don't deserve to be at the top of the line or the head of the line. We don't deserve that, we need better. So often, we may not do much to get better. And a lot of it is based on a belief system. It could have been a belief system that's been passed along to you. Right? Many people have these, when we had them, placed and passed down through the lineage of our families. And it's hard. It's not easy. You know, one side of my family, my mother was loving. My father's side of the family, they were harsh. And they were hard. And they were always making comparisons between my older brother and myself. In fact, the firstborn is who they paid attention. The firstborn is who they lavished their love on. Secondborn, middle, if I had a daughter, not a daughter, but a sister, didn't matter. And it didn't matter for me because it was like I was invisible. But on my mother's side of the family, they made sure everybody was even. They didn't care if my brother was 5 years older than me. They didn't care. They wanted us to bond. They wanted us to bond together. So sometimes you, those of you who are married, and people ask me, how come I'm not married yet? Well, I've gone through some issues where I've lost a fiance through health and death. I've lost another one in another way, through an accident. But I wasn't around when the accident took place. So we go through things, and then you let go, and then you struggle, right? I've gone through things where I struggle with who I am and come out realizing I'm all right. Why? Because I understand that I have value, not just to impact someone else's life. So these are called wisdom keys. So I don't worry about impacting someone else's life, because the first life that has to be impacted is my own. The first life that has to feel the dynamics of what I'm saying is me, my life. And then once I'm comfortable with myself, then I can share the gems with others with no problem. Or sometimes I have to listen very well because it may not be meant for me to share. Because sometimes you can share so much that it overwhelms somebody else. Some things you just can't share. Some things you have to hold on to. So we might ask ourselves, how valuable am I to myself, my immediate family, my loved ones, those in my social circles who are close to me, other coworkers in the business field, or you name it, that I have a connection with? Some people need a lot of friends, and I mean a lot. Some people got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 people that know them. Some people just have a few. As they say, you can count them on your hands and feet. Or you can just count them on one hand. You know, you got 5. I know I got 2, 3, 4, 5 good people, 10. We're all spread out. Some are here in the Southwest. Others are back east. Some are on the West Coast. Some are in the Central Time Zone up there in the Chicago area. But these are people that I value because they value me. But how? I don't look for validation from them. I learn to look from within for the validation. So when we talk about self-love, or when I mention self-love, you might ask yourself, how much do I love myself? How much of myself have I changed? How much of myself am I embracing? How much of myself not only do I have the faith in, but I can trust? So sometimes we have to look at ourselves. Look at yourself. I have a mirror technique. You go and look in the mirror at yourself. And right away you start looking very closely. Am I relaxed? Am I nervous? Am I on edge in some way? Am I tired? Am I animated? What's my body language like? You see, when we look in the mirror at ourselves, we are our first reflection. So now you could speak into that mirror, right? You could say hello. You could address the mirror because you're addressing who you see in the mirror. You could begin to speak. Am I well? Am I together here? Am I together here when I speak? Am I together here when I feel? There are these times when we have to ask ourselves these kind of questions because they're important. We have to figure out our value. What are we worth? And I'm not talking about from the financial side. What are you worth from the emotional side? What are you worth from the mental side? What are you worth health-wise? We can begin formulating those questions. We can begin asking those kind of questions, which will help show us who we are or who that part of ourselves we need to let go of. We have to trust the process that as we do this, we can let go of old wounds. And those old wounds don't have to be open wounds of remembrance. They could be wounds that you fixed. But you still may hold on to the wound, the experience of having it. So we have to start to look at who are we. So when you use this mirror technique, you're not concerned with how others are seeing you. You are concerned with how you are receiving yourself. Because if you can look at yourself in the mirror and you can begin to see the true self, then you know as you present yourself into the world, you're being, what's that favorite word? Authentic, right? You're being authentic. You're being real. You're not faking anything. You know that before you leave that mirror, you can go outside and feel good about yourself because you ain't making up anything about yourself. You're being truthful to yourself. And when you're truthful to yourself, your stock goes up with yourself. Why? Because you're not carrying any burdens. You don't need to carry any burdens. You just need to let go. People say, well, the old phrase used to be let go and let God. Well, once you find out that that aspect is inside of you, so it's easier to let go any personal issues that you're struggling with, where you're not going to worry so much. You're going to allow yourself to step in to a new reality of yourself. And all is based on how you care for yourself, how much you love yourself. That also goes for when you need to love yourself more, need to love yourself enough, be willing to love yourself enough that you can say no. When you can love yourself enough to say no, you're on to something. Because you're no longer allowing something or someone or some issue externally or internally steer you away. As I said last week, we've got to learn to let a setback become a setup. When we have a setback, we don't have to mull over it but so long. We don't have to cry over it but so long. You're going to get yourself back up on the horse, on the saddle, and you're going to proceed forward. Well, it's the same here. As I said, your wellness depends on your self love. Because if you know yourself and you love yourself, what do you have? A true value. That value is constant and consistent. It never changes. That true value of who you are not only never changes, but it's healing. It's blessing. It's a blessing to you. Because you get to some point where you could share it with others. Share your blessings with others. What are some of the blessings that you have? Inner beauty, inner harmony, which then what projects onto the outside of you. You're alive and you're well. And balance. You have this balance, but balance can be shaky, so it's in motion. So at some point you gain balance. We do it when we had to learn how to walk, right? We had to learn how to put one foot in front of the other, how to stand, how to rock side to side, how to stand straight. But it taught us that balance is something that takes place in motion. And so does loving yourself, and so does you discovering your true self. The more you love yourself, the more you become yourself. You're not being anybody else. You're not in competition with anybody else. It's amazing. You think of how certain actors and actresses, they all want that Oscar. They all want best actor, best actress, leading star, leading, you name it. They all want that. They all want to have a living room loaded with Oscars and Emmys and Tonys. But in the end, some of them will tell you, I just enjoy the work itself. I am not a worrying person. I don't sit here and stress out because I didn't come in first, second, or third. Doesn't matter. What matters is when I portray my character. People who see my character on the screen, can they relate to that character? To what that character is saying, can they relate? It is the same way. The stage of life is such that there are many variables, and you're not any one of them. You have something to say, and yet you are not the words you're even saying. Not even the words you're speaking or thinking, because they came from someplace. And there's another part of you that helped formulate the image so that you could see it. So we have to learn how to embrace our true selves. And once we do that, the healing comes. Sometimes, I think someone wrote a book. They were in Oprah's book club or something. And it was called Broken Open, I believe. And sometimes when you get broken open, meaning that, you just can't do anymore. You're beyond being stuck and immobile. You just can't do anymore. You're fed up. It's that moment that internally you cry into the universe of self and say, I can't do it anymore, or I can't do this by myself. I need help. It is when we are surrendering to what is needed, what is truly desired. When we do that, the doors within you open wide, and trust comes in. Faith walks in. Your life now becomes this opportunity where everything is going to be blessed with harmony, greater understanding, a wealth of knowledge and information that becomes becomes a part of you so much that you could turn it into an actual material, monetary thing. But that's not what you're seeking. You're seeking the value that you acquire when you love yourself. So, for the rest of this day, think about things that involve you projecting self-love onto you. Think of things and moments and people that you are thankful for, that you can find a degree of gratitude. You can find these parts, these fragmented elements, and you can begin to bring the fragmented elements. That's what the shamans would call soul retrieval. The soul is broken up, and they got to pull all these parts of the soul, reshape it, and let it come back in. Think of how many times you had to reshape yourself. How many times did you have to change the way that you speak? How many times did you have to find out that you weren't really listening, but now you have to listen? How many times you weren't really seeing, but now you have to see? How many times will you tumble forward or fall backward, or lean to the side and fall off, or lean to the left and fall off, or feel so traumatized that you can't move physically? You can't move your feelings out as feelers. Soon, you allow yourself to change, where you decide, I don't need to carry these burdens. I don't need to carry someone else's burdens. I don't need to figure out someone else's problems. I got all the energy I need to figure out my own. So when you start to figure out your own, and you start to let go of some things you can't change, and you start to incorporate things that you can, when you allow yourself to move or step forward to your own rhythm, not the rhythm of someone else. If there's someone around you that says, well, you need to walk this way. No, they need to walk that way, because there's a path that's been laid out for you. You just have to find the groove and get in it. How many people have friends or family members that tell them, well, you need to do this? And then sometimes you ask them, well, are you doing it? Because you know you both are literally on the same page. So you might ask them, are you doing it? I used to have friends that used to tell me, man, you need to take this health product. You need to take, and then this is going to happen, then this is going to happen. And I'm looking at them, and I'm going, they look like they need it more than I do. So then I got in the habit of asking them, have you ever used the product before yourself? And after a while, I get the answer no. So I would say, well, how do you know it works for me? And he said, well, Spirit told me. Well, my spirit tells me that you're just maybe ego tripping a little too much, and you need to pull back, and you need to explore the product for yourself. You need to see if you got some allergies that are going to come up. You need to see if it's not meant for you to take this big old capsule that you can't even swallow. So, ask yourself, what kind of value do you carry with you every day? And when you begin to do that, you begin to bring on all the sources to be resourced out, meaning that you got stuff to be shared with the world. You got ways that need to be seen in the world. And if people aren't being drawn or attracted, even while you're trying to figure that out, you still got to be in the world. You still got to know what you are worth in this world, which is how much do you love yourself? Because if you can figure that part out, if you can figure, just like the title says, your wellness depends on your self-love. Why? Because if you can figure out the value of self-love, then you know your true love, your true value. And I said true love. So you'll attract what you're supposed to attract. You'll bring good people into your life. You'll bring everything else that comes with it. And deep down, see, when you're looking in the mirror, you get to look into your own eyes. And deep down, you get an opportunity to find out what you're really feeling. Because that which you are really feeling is the core. And that core will attract whatever is needed to meet its level. So it's best that you don't worry about stuff. Why? Because you're going to be all right. And feel the message. They say, hey, don't worry about that. No, you don't have to take that ride today. No, you don't have to climb on that bus. You don't have to get in that car. That's not for you today. We just need you to stay home. We as your higher self and everything that's connected thereafter. That's what's telling you, hey, you need to slow down. So sit down and write about these things that make you feel great, make you feel well. Write about some of the things that make you teary-eyed and sorrowful, because by writing it, you get to acknowledge it, and you can let it go. That's what you want to do. Or let's say that's some of the things you want to do, because it's all about feeling better about yourself. We're not running a race with anyone else. Because if that was true, you blow your feet out, your knees out, your hips out, trying to stay up. But you don't need to do that. What you need to do is you need to honor yourself. In honoring yourself, you then can exalt yourself. The soul of you can exalt. It can feel it's rising up to a new level. And guess what? As you rise up to this new level, you no longer allow yourself to become overwhelmed by anything or anyone. You don't become overtaken by anything or anyone. You no longer are living in fear by way of anything or anyone. Why? Because you come to a point of understanding that it's all right to be who you say you are. And be honest with yourself that that's who I am. And then start loving on that self. Because the more you shower love upon yourself, and the more you can get to a point where you're not doing it from your mind, but it's coming from your heart, then the sea of people will kind of fall into the path. The sea of people, of right people, will be present for you to meet. Find your true value. Because when you find your true value, then you know how much you are truly worth. Not only in this immediate world, but beyond. So let's do a little lightweight meditation that kind of takes us there. And all I want you to hold in your mind is an image of yourself being ecstatically happy that you have accomplished something that moves you into another level. Allow yourself to inhale and then exhale through your mouth. Inhale. Keep doing it 2 more times. Just bringing that air in. Filling not only your lungs to capacity, but filling the rest of the body. And then exhale. Just go within. Just keep going within. Quiet the mind. Quiet the body. When you quiet the mind, you quiet the body. Stay in that zone. Pay attention to how you are breathing. And know that everything that you're seeking is seeking you. And because you know your true value stems and comes out of the self-love that you have for yourself. You can't go wrong. Well, I'll be on next week. Same time, 1 p.m. Mountain Time. Another live episode of Wisdom Keys with myself, Brother Francis. My grace is your grace. Until next time, remember that divine grace is a blessing as we're alive and well in the age of remembrance. Look forward to seeing you soon.